Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 2000's Represent. We're starting off this cycle of 2007 with an album, and this episode we're talking about Echo, Silence, Patience, and Grace by the Foo Fighters. One of my absolute favorite albums from them. It's definitely climbed the rankings for me over the last few years. Probably before that, I probably had this ranked kind of in the middle, kind of like maybe like number like five or so out of their albums, and I think it's actually climbed up a couple spaces for me on my personal rankings. I now put this at number three on my favorite albums by the Foo Fighters. My number one is "There Is Nothing Left to Lose." I've talked probably at length about that album on probably like various other parts of my channel. Then my second favorite is Wasting Light, followed by this one. This one is actually just quite incredible, and I think it just gets better with age. It's kind of aged like a fine wine, as they might say. But yeah, it's just an absolute amazing album. It's a little bit rock, a little bit like acoustic. There's some songs on the album that start off very like quietly or very softly, and by the end of the song it's just kind of like screaming or like yelling the lyrics. I'll point those songs out. I feel there's songs on this album that are definitely rock songs. There's songs on this album that feel more acoustic, and then there's songs like I mentioned just a second ago that kind of start off feeling like they're going to be a slower song, and they just build and build and build until it becomes essentially a rock song. So overall, the album is a I just classify it as a rock album, but it's one of my favorite albums from them. I've listened to it. I most recently again listened to it on vinyl. I haven't listened to the vinyl of it, I think, since I got the vinyl a few years ago. I think I played the vinyl maybe once, and then my most recent re-listening to it was on vinyl. I have other albums on vinyl, but yeah, it's just an incredible vinyl, and I love that the album artwork on this is absolutely fantastic. It might be one of my favorite album covers by them. And then let's see what the gatefold looks like in here. Yeah, so you just have a lot of interesting, like very artistic photography in the out in the gatefold there. But I'll put that down for a moment. But yeah, just listened to it again recently on vinyl. It sounded amazing. The first time, and actually the second time, I went to Laguna Beach for this. My friends have an annual like meetup for what would be Taylor Hawkins' birthday. First time out was 2024, and I played this album while I was waiting to board my flight. Went on the same trip again in 2025, back in February, and listened to the album prior to boarding my flight as well. I kind of say it's the most chilled out album they've or chilled out album since There Is Nothing Left to Lose. There Is Nothing Left to Lose feels, in my opinion, like their most kind of relaxed album. Like they had a much a more relaxed like recording schedule and so on. But this one also has some tracks on it that feel like they could have been like leftovers or maybe not used on There Is Nothing Left to Lose. So it kind of is a perfect companion album to that. It's kind of funny that the album covers also feature like a very similar like color scheme on the cover. But I have my notes here about the album. We're gonna get to those, and then we'll get to our track list and all that as well. Let me just pull my notes up here. All right, so we have Echo, Silence, Patience, and Grace. First released September 25th, 2007. So it just very recently celebrated its, I think, 18th anniversary. It's kind of crazy that it's been out for 18 years. This is their sixth studio album, and it kind of came out, I think they did a somewhat short, not really short, it was like 2007 to like a 4-year kind of hiatus at the time, because they did this album in 2007. I think it was 2009 they released their first greatest hits compilation, and then 2 years after that, in 2011, we got Wasting Light. I think the reasoning for that was a lot of the members of the band were starting to get married and have kids around this time, so they took some of that time to, obviously like start families and things like that. And that is reflected pretty heavily in the kind of, I think, the writing process of this album, some of the lyrics, of course, and then the production. So yeah, again, their sixth studio album followed up, or its prior album was In Your Honor. I believe In Your Honor and this album were both recorded at the at Studio 606 in LA. It's a great record studio. I've been there a couple times, not inside, of course, but always try to stop by it when I go to LA. It's just cool to see, even just from the outside. But yeah, so they recorded those two albums there, and then I don't think they recorded anything there specifically until their most recent album. But here we are. But so again, like I said earlier, one of their best albums. I kind of always had it kind of in the middle of my rankings, but until recently, it's kind of shot up. It's even like knocked, I think, like The Color and the Shape out of like third place at that point. So I think my rankings were I may have to revisit them, but like I said, I go There's Nothing Left to Lose, then Wasting Light, then Echo, Silence, Patience, and Grace, and for a while it might still be there. I have But Here We Are, and then The Color and the Shape. That may be surprising or like sacrilegious to some to have The Color and the Shape ranked kind of below some of those other albums, but that's just kind of how I feel about it. But anyhow, Gil Norton returned to produce this album. He had previously for the Foo Fighters produced The Color and the Shape, another one of their best albums and kind of like their breakout album. I think Dave Grohl had a great album with their self-titled debut. Wasn't really a band at that point. I think like I said, on that album, Dave recorded basically everything. I think there's like one part on one track recorded by somebody else. But after that, when they did The Color and the Shape, that kind of really kind of propelled the band to like new heights, I think. And then they kind of rode that wave into There's Nothing Left to Lose, in One by One, In Your Honor, and then here with this album. So Gil Norton returned to produce that. The writing and recording process took them, I think, I think they had a lot of pre-planning and pre-practicing to get everything right. So they did a lot of like work prior to actually recording, and the recording only took like a few months. So from March 2007 is when it started, and then they ended the recording in June with the release a few months later after that. This was apparently the first time that the band, after they got everything recorded, didn't feel the need to re-record anything. So apparently, like, it was kind of like they had done so much probably like rehearsing and getting everything kind of perfect leading up to the recording that they didn't feel the need to go back and mess with stuff. So that, and apparently that was a first for them. The prior album kind of informed this one a little bit. The prior album is actually a double album. So In Your Honor was one half of the album, one disc, one LP, whatever you want to call it, was a very solid rock album. And the second half is an all acoustic album. So In Your Honor is technically two albums. I prefer the acoustic half over the rock half. There's some good stuff on the rock half. Like I think like The Best You was on that. But they ran with that concept a little bit and kind of, instead of doing a double album, they did basically, you can kind of say Echo, Silence, Patience, and Grace is half rock, maybe like half acoustic as well. That's why I said it's kind of a good companion piece to There Is Nothing Left to Lose, because it feels, those albums, I feel you can say that they're like sister albums or whatever you want to call them. Like I said, this feels like the most laid back album of theirs, up probably since There's Nothing Left to Lose, because all the other albums have been fairly hot, like heavy on the rock. So with the exception of the acoustic half of In Your Honor. But after this, they did like the greatest hits. They did Wasting Light, which is very heavy, one of their heaviest albums probably, as far as just like sound. Then they did Sonic Highways after that, which was still very much a rock album. There's a few albums that are songs on there that are kind of like relaxed out. And then you did Concrete and Gold, and then after that we have I believe Medicine at Midnight, followed by Here We Are. So it's more laid back than I think most of the other albums. The only album that's more laid back is There Is Nothing Left to Lose. Some songs on the album change drastically throughout the course of the song. The two big examples I can think of that are, let me actually just bring the track list up. I think it's track 2. Yeah, Let It Die. So Let It Die starts off very kind of slowly, and it just builds and builds and builds and builds. The other one is Come Alive. Come Alive, lyrics are kind of on the nose about it being about the birth of Dave Grohl's daughter. So basically, because he's like talking about like sterilizing stuff with alcohol and things like that. So the lyrics on, like I said earlier, the lyrics and kind of music is all often about kind of the members of the bands like starting families around this time period, which kind of led to their little hiatus before doing Wasting Light. So yeah, those two songs are probably the most notable where they just change from soft acoustic to just getting very heavy into the rock side here. So got that. I already got that down. About talking about how many kids. Oh yeah, so there is a track on here called and apparently it's the very first instrumental track that the Foo Fighters have done where they just a straight up instrumental. It's called The Ballad of the Beaconsfield Miners, and I think there is a deleted scene. I don't know if it's in the documentary, but they some years back the Foo Fighters did their back and forth documentary, and I don't remember when it came out, but there is I'll see if I can find a link or a video and link it in the description below. But there is a story where Dave is recounting some miners. I think they were in either Australia or New Zealand. I think it was Australia, but they were trapped in a mine for quite some time. And one of their requests when they were trapped down there was for somebody to give them like an iPod or an MP3 player of some kind, loaded up with Foo Fighters music. So that kind of inspired Dave Grohl to basically said, hey, if you guys make it through this, like we'll go to a show, like you've got tickets to like any show you want to go to, and we'll hang out and what have you. And then he wrote that song, was telling them, I think after they got out, I think he was saying in the story, one of the miners didn't take him up on the offer. One of the other miners did, and he told us they were like hanging out, having drinks at like a hotel bar, and he said, hey, on the next album, being what this would being Echo, Silence, Patience, and Grace, I'm going to write a song about this whole thing. It's just an instrumental, but kind of the story behind it is cool because like when those miners were trapped in that mine, one of the things they wanted was just a bunch of Foo Fighters music, which I think is kind of cool. So Dave took that and then kind of wrote that instrumental about that. And then I think he kind of like almost if I'm misremembering watching the video, kind of almost forgot about it because he thinks they were getting ready to doing the recording process, and he was like, oh yeah, I got to write that song for those miners, and then they did. So that's kind of cool. Like I said, the album artwork, which we just discussed, which is right there. Some of their absolute best artwork, and I did have a quote here from Taylor Hawkins about the production and how they kind of approached doing this album. So let me actually just pull that up here. So Taylor Hawkins was quoted as saying, quote, we basically played each of these songs 100 different times, trying every little thing every different way. So that kind of goes into kind of Gil Norton's kind of insistence that the band kind of just do a lot of stuff ahead of time, practice, get everything kind of dialed in before recording. So like Taylor said in that quote, each of those songs was played like 100 different times with different things going on, and then what we ended up with on the album is kind of what they went with. So it would be really interesting if they were ever to release like demos or other stuff from these recording sessions, or maybe not recording sessions, but even if they just had like jam sessions or practice sessions where they were messing around in the studio, it would just be interesting to see like what like the Pretender would sound like in maybe its original state. Because I actually think that song was came about because they needed something that was a little bit heavier, and I think they had a song that they were working on that it was like an unfinished demo, and that's ended up what would become The Pretender, which is now one of their most iconic tracks. Like it's usually like in the running for one of their greatest, their greatest songs. The Pretender is incredible. You have great vocals from Dave Grohl on there, but you also have great backing vocals from Taylor Hawkins, some amazing drumming from him as well. And one other thing about this album is this is kind of from the time period where I think roughly from like 1999 up until I think Wasting Light, you had, and I think when Wasting Light came about is when they brought, at least officially brought Pat Smear back into the group. But during the There Was Nothing Left to Lose era or recording sessions, it was just Dave, Taylor, and Nate. They brought Chris in after that as like another guitarist, and then for I think the next 3 albums after their third, it was One by One, which was just a 4-piece band basically. Their 5th album also a 4-piece band, and then this one still just a 4-piece band. I think Rami, who is the most recent like official member of the band. I don't know if Ian Rubin, I believe the new drummer, is brought in as a touring drummer, or if they're like making them like a full-fledged member. I don't really know how that's going to work, but I believe that the lineup now is Dave Grohl. The official members are Dave Grohl, Nate Mendel, Chris Shiflett, Rami Jaffe, and Pat Smear. And then you have your Ian Rubin, I believe is the name, is as their drummer. But I don't know if he's going to be drumming on any of the albums or is just a touring drummer. We're going to have to wait and see how that plays out. But I'm going to actually bring up the personnel list on this album because I think Rami Jaffe maybe was on the album, but just as a session musician. So yeah, personnel on this album, the main personnel are Dave Grohl, Nate Mendel, Taylor Hawkins, and Chris Shiflett, so the 4-piece band there. And then yeah, Rami Jaffe and Pat Smear is on the album as well. But I don't think he was in the like main lineup at the time. Pat Smear plays rhythm guitar on Let It Die, and Rami Jaffe does keyboards on Let It Die, Erase / Replace, Long Road to Ruin, Come Alive, and But Honestly, and then accordion on Statues. Yeah, I actually think they played Statues on their last tour, like on 2024, and Rami was playing around on an accordion. I wasn't at that show. I think that was like one of the LA ones. But yeah, so had been doing like session work for them for a while before eventually becoming like a full-fledged member. I don't remember if he was on any of the other albums though. Let me actually just bring up In Your Honor, because the Skin and Bones is technically the previous album, but In Your Honor. Let's just take a look at the personnel on this album as well. Yeah, Rami's on that album as well. So like Rami is on In Your Honor as a session musician. So for a while he's been with them for a while, but most recently has been made a full-fledged member of the band. All right, so I think we're done with that. We're now going to get to our reviews here. Let me just pull those up. All right, so the reviews for this, Metacritic has it at a 71 out of 100. I think that's a little bit low, in my opinion. So AllMusic has it at a 3 out of 5. Entertainment Weekly gave it an A. The Guardian gave it a 4 out of 5. Pitchfork only has it at a 4.2 out of 10. Pop Matters gave it a 4 out of 10. Q has it at a 4 out of 5. Robert Christgau gives it a B. Rolling Stone has it at a 3.5 out of 5. 6 out of 10 from Spin, and a 2.5 out of 5 from Sputnik Music. So some very kind of all over the place reviews. You have like a good amount of like 4s, but a lot of like some low ones. Like a 4.2 from Pitchfork is kind of surprising. I would say like a 6 out of 10 is kind of surprising for me, and then Sputnik Music with a 2.5 out of 5 is surprising because I think this one, maybe when it came out, not a lot of people were like really like enjoying it for some reason. I don't know why, but I think it's aged very, very well. I think if they were to revisit the album and do a more modern review of it, a lot of those publications and critics would probably rank it a little bit higher, possibly. But now we're going to move into our track listing on this album. And we just pull down to our track listing here. All right, so it comes in with 12 tracks, and it's 51 minutes and 12 seconds. Track 1, and it starts off just incredibly hard with The Pretender, which is one of their most iconic tracks, like we mentioned earlier. But yeah, The Pretender is incredible, and the album starts off right with that track. Track 2 is Let It Die. So Let It Die, one of the tracks where it starts off kind of like slowly and softly, and just builds and builds and builds. That one's amazing. Track 3 is Erase/Replace. That one's kind of just a straight up rock song. Track 4, another one of the heavier songs that's definitely straight up rock, is Long Road to Ruin. It's got one of Chris Shiflett's best guitar solos on it, I think, in my opinion at least. So yeah, track 4 is Long Road to Ruin. Track 5 is Come Alive. That's the one that focuses pretty much on the birth of Dave Grohl's daughter. And that one also starts off kind of like Let It Die, where it starts off slowly, but it's just like it just gets louder and louder and harder as it goes. Track 6 is Stranger Things. Stranger Things Have Happened. It's a great one. Track 7 is Cheer Up Boys, Your Makeup Is Running. That one is more of like a rock song. Track 8, one of the more chilled out songs on the album, is Summer's End. Absolutely love that one. Track 9, probably more on the chilled out because it's an instrumental, and I also think it's the shortest track on the album, is the Ballad of the Beaconsfield Miners. Just like a 2 minute, like 2 minutes and change instrumental. It's quite good. Track 10, I should say, another one that's kind of more just relaxed out, kind of chilled out, is Statues. That was amazing as well. Track 11 is But Honestly, another one that's kind of on the more relaxed side of things. And then closing it out is another one on the more relaxed side of things, which is Home. So that's 12 tracks, comes in at 51 minutes and 12 seconds. So if I were to go through the songs here, I would say The Pretender is definitely, like, I think there's 3 ways to kind of break these songs up. They're either going to be straight up rock songs, like The Pretender or Long Road to Ruin. They're going to be more kind of acoustic, almost semi-acoustic, like relaxed songs, even though they're not necessarily acoustic. And then 3 are going to be the ones that are kind of in the middle, where they start off acoustically or kind of like relaxed, and then get louder and more progressive, like more hard as they go on. So I would say the ones that are pure rock to me are like The Pretender, Erase Replace, Long Road to Ruin, Cheer Up Boys, Your Makeup Is Running. And then kind of once you hit that part of the album, you hit the like track 6 and track 7. The track 8 through 12 are kind of the more of the relaxed tracks. So I would say the rock ones are like, again, The Pretender, Erase Replace, Long Road to Ruin, and Cheer Up Boys, Your Makeup Is Running. The ones that are kind of in the middle are Let It Die and Come Alive. So they start off like slowly and just build up. And the ones that are more relaxed and more acoustic, I would say, are Stranger Things Have Happened, Summer's End, Ballad of the Beaconsfield Miners, Statues, but Honestly, and Home. So it feels like kind of a very good blend of just pure rock and more like acoustic style. I don't want to say soft rock, because it's definitely not soft rock, but it leans more towards soft rock than some of the other tracks on the album. It's basically a perfect mix of those 2 styles, with those 2 other tracks kind of covering both categories. That's how I would probably describe it. It's a fantastic album. Again, I'll try to leave a link in the description to where Dave was talking about how the Beaconsfield Miners song came to be and stuff like that. But yeah, this is absolutely one of my favorite albums from them. And it's crazy to think that this just recently, like I think like last month or so, celebrated its 18th birthday. It's old enough to vote now, I guess. But that is, I think, going to do it for this video. Absolutely love this album. Definitely check it out. But yeah, that's going to do it for now. So remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll see you again next time. Thanks again for watching. Take care. Have a good one.